What's going on, everyone? So in season 3, episode 8, we got the story that we were waiting for, right? Victor was trying to get Jasper to talk, which, by the way, in hindsight, you didn't even need to go risk your life and your father's life to go get Jasper. You just needed to remember that it wasn't Jasper, that it was actually the boy in white, but I digress. But point is that Victor ends up remembering with the help of Tabitha and Sarah. You know, Sarah was dealing with the chaos first and then went and got Tabitha. But Victor remembers that, no, it was actually the boy in white that relayed the story to Christopher about how to save the children, and, you know, how the children were born in darkness, died in darkness, through the people that they trusted, and, you know, they had hope, and the hope, you know, they put that hope into the roots that ultimately became the faraway tree, the bottle tree. Paraphrasing the story, but that's essentially how it went, right? And that in order to save the children, Christopher would have had to go on the journey, go on the adventure, right? And turns out that Victor, after he heard Christopher didn't want to do it, told his mother, and Miranda decided to do it. And it ended up leading to her death. But here's my thing. So clearly, at some point, we are going to see them talk to the boy in white. You have to at this point, right? The boy in white is the one that told the story. You could argue you don't because Victor just told the story, but like the first thought I would have is like, okay, Victor, can you get us to the boy in white, right? Like, aren't you friends with the boy in white? That's your buddy, right? Like, don't you think it's a good idea that we talk to him? Don't you think it's a good idea? It's like, hey, you know, like, hey, what's the deal? What's up with that? You know, like, so you got to imagine that in these next 2 episodes, there is some type of conversation with the boy in white, which I was kind of curious where he's been, right? I wanted to be patient. I actually did want to kind of like do a video and be like what's going on with the boy in white? Because like he was in the previous seasons, it's kind of just been sprinkled in, right? But again, he's kind of been sprinkled in, but I wanted to be patient. Lo and behold, it appears that we're going to get him at some point. Now we still might not, but it was just odd that you had him at the end of the season in season 2, and then to start the season, and then that was it, right? Like, you didn't see from him, hear from him, nothing ever since. And it's like, if Victor and the boy in white are like best friends, like, and Ethan and the boy in white are like friends, like, why aren't they communicating more? You know what drives me crazy, though, about the boy in white? Is that the boy in white is helpful, except for he's really not, right? Like, he's good at, like, kind of pointing you where you need to go. Like, hey, don't go over there. You're going to die. Go over there. But, like, if he really has this information, if he really is and knows what he's supposed to do, and he sees everything, and he knows things, right? As we see Fromville, right? I mean, the monsters know things. The monsters have relayed to, like, Boyd private conversations behind closed doors, right? If the boy in white is kind of this entity that's there that kind of operates and knows all and see, a little information would be helpful, right? Like, I understand him not wanting to talk to anybody else, but at least, you know, talk to Victor. Like Sarah, he communicated with Sarah. Like, Sarah and him literally had a conversation. It's just like, hey, man, like, it would be nice if you just, you know, gave us any type of information that might be helpful. Hey, what are we supposed to do? You know, like, hey, if Christopher was the one that was supposed to go through the tree, right? Well, Jade is following the same path as Christopher, which I do think that they're going to come to that realization at some point. I do, because it makes sense, right? Like, if Christopher was the one that was obsessed with the symbol, and he went down the rabbit hole, okay, well, who's doing the same thing right now? Oh, yeah, it's Jade, right? And Tabitha's been working, like, directly with Jade this entire time. So I do think at some point that light bulb's going to go off. But it's like, hey, you know, like, why not talk to Jade? You see him going down the same path and trying to figure stuff out. Maybe tell him what are the notes, the bottle notes, right? Like, what do those numbers mean? What are they? Are they addresses? Are they, you know, dates? Are they like, you know, is it, you know, a location, right? Like, is it coordinates, right? Like, what is it? Is it like, you know, is each number supposed to represent a letter in the alphabet? Like, any type of like real information would really be nice and can go a long way here. But no, right? Like, it's just like what are we doing here? Now, I do think that the boy in white has helped more, right? Like, and I've talked about, like, is the boy in white God, right? God works in mysterious ways. Like, God won't give you the answer to the puzzle, but it'll kind of nudge you in the right direction, right? Like, God, the Lord works in mysterious ways. The Lord won't, like, give you the answer, but he'll kind of push you in the direction. It's kind of what it feels like with the boy in white in a lot of ways. And even Sarah said that she doesn't believe it's a boy, right? Like, so I do think that there is more to the boy in white, right? Like, there is the question, like, is the boy in white evil? I don't think he's evil. I think he's, like, indifferent. That's like, I did the whole video breaking down the boy in white being God thing, but this is like, the way the boy in white reacts is why it feels very biblical to God, right? Like, God lets things happen, right? Like, doesn't get involved. Like, it's the age-old question. Like, why do people die? Why do people, suffer? Why this? Why that? And it's just like, there's the grandiose reason, and it's just like, it's just how it works. And until we get the answers, you don't really know, right? Like, it's kind of how it feels, right? Like, he kind of nudges people the right way, kind of helps people the right way, but he won't like flat out tell you. And it's like, well, is he evil because he's letting all this stuff happening instead of getting everyone out? And it's like, okay, well, is God evil, right? Like, or is it just they're insignificant? And it's like, like what, you want me to do everything for you? Like, you have free will, you have to make choices, you have to do things, right? Like, it's kind of like very biblical in the sense to me. I'm kind of like paraphrasing, but like I said, I did a whole in-depth video on it if you want kind of more detail on that. But like, my point is, like, I don't think the boy in white is evil, but I don't think he's necessarily good, right? Because if he was just pure good, like, why not just work to get everyone out? Now, is it possible that he can't, right? Maybe he's limited here, right? Like, so one of the things that I've talked about is I believe the boy in white helped Tabitha get out, especially now, right? Now that we know she wasn't meant to go through the tree like Miranda was, right? Like, that's why Miranda died, right? So, like, now that we know and we have the information we have, right, it feels like the boy in white helped Tabitha, and he even pushed her out and said this is the only way, but she thought she was saving the kids, but in reality was never saving the kids. And then the boy in white went to the real world to go lead her down the path to find Henry, and then Henry came back. I think the boy in white opened the door, or used Tabitha to open the door, which allowed him to be able to get out too, and then lead her down the path to ultimately finding Henry. And then once she had Henry and him, then that was it. I think no matter what, they were heading to Fromville. Right? I just think that they ended up having an accident on the way, and the ambulance kind of became a casualty. But the boy in white's like, hey, I guess you're all coming now because it was important. Right? Like, because Fromville could have brought Henry at any point, anytime, anywhere, right? Like, so why? And why did the boy in white keep showing up, popping up? Why did the boy in white help Tabitha get out, right? Like, it's just, it makes sense if the boy in white had a plan in place, right? And the boy in white talks to Victor, right? It just apparently doesn't relay any important or significant information. It's just, again, it's frustrating because it's just like, obviously, it'd be a very short show, so I'm sure part of it is just movie logic and stuff, right? Like, if the boy in white was just like, hey, everyone needs to go through the tree at once, and you'll go to the lighthouse, and if you all jump off, you guys will all make it out, right? Like, right? Like, that's a very quick show, right? Everyone's like, okay, cool, thanks, right? Like, and then the series is over. So I get you got to draw it out to an extent, and if it really is a boy, then you also have, like, the child mentality. Like, is the boy in white really thinking, like, oh, I need to relay all the information to people? And does he look at it as, like, the last person I told the truth to and the information to, they ended up going off the reservation, right? Like, so, again, in the boy in white's defense, there are some underlining circumstances, right, that may have changed things. But it's like, why wouldn't you just, like, tell Victor? Like, why wouldn't you relay things to Victor? Like, You know, it's just, or why hasn't anybody been like, hey, Victor, why don't you talk? Like when Sarah found out, like the boy in white, when she was like, oh, you know the boy in white? Like, and he's like, yeah, that's my friend. Like, I would have been like, well, can you call him? Right? Like, do you have a number on him? Right? Like, do you just think of him and he just like pops up? Like, how do you two communicate? Can you take me to him? Is there like something we can do? Right? Like, that would be my first thought is like, hey, like, you don't think that maybe the boy in white has some information? Right? And especially if you can talk to him or Ethan. Like, I'd be like, hey, Ethan, right? Like, do you know where the boy in white is? Can you talk to him? Can you call him? Right? Maybe he can give you some information that could maybe help us get out of here. Right? Because the boy in white's got to know things. But there's still just so much to unpack and unravel with him too. And I'm curious to see how many answers we get with the boy in white. Right? But I feel like there has to be a conversation. I feel like there must be. You can't just like not have a conversation, in my opinion. But do you feel the same way? Again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are. As always, this is a discussion, and I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think, like, yeah, they're going to have a conversation with the boy in white? Does the boy in white make you as frustrated as it makes me? Because it's just like, come on, man. Like, you had all this, you didn't think it was a good idea to tell anybody else? You didn't think it was a good idea to, maybe talk to Victor, right? Like, I don't know. Call me crazy, but just, like I said, just kind of wanted to talk about this, kind of rant about the boy in white, because it does feel like he's going to have some significance in these final 2 episodes. So we'll see how it plays out. But anyway, again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are. Either way, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.